Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Deborah Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light.
In just a minute, our Morning Light panel will go behind the headlines.
But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. We first told you about Lebanon County Christian Ministries in December. Well, the organization shares the love of Jesus through food, shelter, and other essential needs. Find out how an upcoming fundraiser will help continue its mission of spreading the gospel and how you can attend.
Indeed, yeah. Well, Pope Francis remains hospitalized with pneumonia and mild kidney failure. The Vatican says the 88-year-old pontiff has shown slight improvement, but is still in critical condition. Now, here's an odd twist on the story. The crypto mega betting site Polymarket is taking bets on the likelihood of Pope Francis's resignation. But if you're Catholic, you may want to think twice. According to gaming researchers, a 400-year-old papal bull, that's an edict or a law, threatening excommunication and banishment if you place that bet. So can betting against the Pope really keep you out of heaven? I thought I'd give the panel an easy question this morning to ask.
I think that's a tough question. I think we just need to pray for the Pope.
We do indeed,
not
for sure.
Bet.
Good. You're not betting.
Not betting. Right. So pay attention if you're one of the 13 million members of the Southern Baptist Convention. In the wake of mounting scandals, America's largest Protestant denomination launched an abuse prevention website in 2023 to report and track pastors who've confessed or have been convicted of abuse. SBC leaders met in Nashville this past week, and a representative says the database is no longer a priority. Instead, the focus is on helping churches access other databases of abusers and training churches to do better background checks. While transparency may hurt a church's bottom line, what are the consequences if crimes of abuse remain hidden?
You think about it, when you're picking a church and you've got a young family, the first thing you check is what? The nursery, right? You're checking who's working with your kids, who's teaching your kids. So they may want to think this policy through twice, I'm not sure. It took 81 years from the first Congress, but on this day in 1870, the United States Senate welcomed Reverend Hiram Revels as the nation's very first African-American senator representing his home state of Mississippi. In his maiden speech, Senator Revels said, "Weary years of bondage had their tale of sorrow to the court of heaven," adding God's most blessed gift to his creation, liberty. So why have so few of us heard the name Hiram R. Revels or the loss of rights in those years after the Civil War? We'll take these big questions to the Morning Light panel this morning. And what a panel it is. And I know you all are very equipped to answer these questions this morning. Luke, you're ready, aren't you?
I got yes or no answers to all of these.
Okay.
So
all right. I'm going to start with the big one on the table here, which is the Pope. The world is watching, and there's a pageantry to it. The white smoke and the black smoke and the conclave, a new movie out, kind of brought us perhaps imaginatively behind what the closed doors there of the chapel. But what is it that keeps people out of heaven? I'm going to start with the pastor on the panel, because when you hear things like this, and it's not just Catholics, Protestants saying, well, here are the rules you have to keep. Here are the things you have to do. You've studied the Bible, and you've got an idea about what keeps people in and out of heaven. Does something like this, say, hey, I did something bad. I bet on the Pope when he might die or what he might have for dinner, or
which I didn't do.
Which you didn't do.
I didn't.
What's the answer here?
Well, the beautiful thing about it, from what we call Protestant belief system versus traditional Roman Catholicism, is whose authority do we adhere to? So to a lot of Roman Catholics, it's the church that has the final authority, versus my belief system is that Christ has the final authority. So we all will make mistakes and do things we shouldn't do, but ultimately it is the Lord Jesus Christ who determines whether I get into heaven or not, regardless of what the church says or doesn't say. And so I think that it's important for us to focus on that, as opposed to some rules that people put in place saying that, well, you bet on the Pope so you can't get in heaven. Like, I did everything else right, but this is the one that God's going to say, nope, I can't look over this one.
We like to think, Luke, that we know kind of who is in the group, right? Who's going in, who's not. You look at, well, she raised this many children, or what a saint he is, or this person. How do you frame this up? And especially, I might add, you're maybe at the tail end of it, but for a generation that has grown very cynical about organized religion, denominational religion.
I think it's kind of similar. I don't think this is my idea, but it's like when you're driving and someone speeds past you, you're like, that guy's crazy. And then someone's going slightly slower than you, and you're like, that guy's crazy too. So there's this like bias towards your own thing. And I do think there is a bias towards like, that person's a crazy zealot. Look at them. They're out there in church. Or that person, man, I really feel sad for them because they're going to burn in somewhere. You know what I mean? So there is this like bias towards like exactly what I believe ties all the way back to, 30 AD or whatever. And like, I have the final word on exactly all of it. So I don't know. I mean, I think the in-group, out-group thing is just a human thing.
Right.
And that, if you take it this literally and you're saying that betting on the Pope is going to cast you out or somebody else, it just feels like another way to add
And
more
I don't know how many
rules.
people are betting on the Pope, but I do know that a lot of people have rules, and a lot of people at the time of death say that I think what God's going to eventually do is put this all on a scale, and it's going to go one way or the other, and I hope I have more on this side than the other side.
I'm pretty sure Mother Teresa is going to get into heaven.
think so.
Is that a declaration,
I
Rebecca?
don't know. I don't think you can know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think God's mind and heart and spirit is so much bigger than our own. So I don't think we can know. I think we can do, the best we can and live through our convictions and through our faith.
These predictive markets are strange, too. Because
Well, I think I mentioned to you, I followed Polymarket all through the election.
Yeah.
I didn't bet because,
Yeah.
I feel a conviction that your time, talent, and treasure you should be a good steward of that. But it was tempting.
it's strange what we bet on, but in history, we have bet on a lot of things, oddly enough. So
Yeah.
the abuse in the church has not just been limited to Catholics. It's certainly extended deeply into Protestantism. We know so many Christian schools, ministries who've been rocked when the person at the top or people at the top lived lives that were disconnected from the truth that they proclaimed. The Southern Baptists are doing something interesting here, which is literally saying we're not going to publish the names of people who have been convicted or who have confessed to crimes, mostly of the sexual nature. What do you think of this, Rebecca? I mean, what is the role that a church has to play in being accountable, not just to members, but to God in a public way?
I think transparency, whether it's the church, whether it's the government, whether it's corporate America, it is very critical to success.
Right.
And people, when you're transparent and you're authentic about it and you're genuine about it, you can tell where an organization's priorities are. So I think it's very important for the church to be transparent and not hide. When you bring sin to light, that light really exposes what needs to change. And churches have a responsibility to protect their people.
So sunlight, best disinfection.
That's right.
How do you view this? And especially, it's not just churches, it's politics, it's all these areas. And the line might be, if you're in that corporate boardroom or the board of elders or deacons, you say, look, this is going to hurt our bottom line. We can handle it internally. We can do this ourselves. We don't need the world looking out in on us.
Yeah, I think what they're basically saying is we're going to play the death by 1,000 cuts type of thing, where it's like they're trying to avoid that, where it's like, oh, another person, another name on the list. But I think what they're missing, there's always a cost of inaction, right?
Okay.
And the cost here is that when the thing blows up, it's going to blow up so much bigger than the tiny little grains of sand of names being on a transparent list where people can see it. I think it's a huge mistake.
So your advice to the Southern Baptist Convention is?
I was just talking to a business and they were saying they're going to strip all of the names off their website so that it's like not about a person. And I was like, I think that flies in the face of the trend of everything nowadays, which is like, just be open and transparent. Just be like, hey, we're really good at these things. We're really bad at these things. We're working on these other things. We know we have an issue. So I just think they're flying in the face of what the people want.
As a pastor, does it rob people of the privilege of watching people who have fallen, who have made mistakes, be restored? Meaning, you know that person had a bad year in 1984, but have you seen what they have done since and what God has done through them? And there's a story of grace there we're missing out on. Absolutely,
and that speaks to the transformative power of the message of the gospel. And I think that when we're not accountable and we're not open and transparent, it does so much more damage to the overall reputation of the church. I've dealt with people over the years who have been abused or mistreated by people that call themselves Christians. And the thing that makes it even a deeper wound that I've seen is not only when the person who they thought this is a safe space, this is a place that I'm supposed to come for healing, but when I'm mistreated there, but when I find out other people in the church knew about it as well, and instead of being transparent and open and honest, they covered it up, then that makes the reputation of the church much worse.
It feels like it repeats the cycle of pain for
Absolutely.
the injured.
Absolutely.
I'm going to close with a big question, and this is, Black History Month. President Trump declared this Black History Month. We've been doing it since President Ford in the country. But why don't we know names like Senator Revels, who had an extraordinary legislative career? Studying his record, you say, why haven't I heard of this guy? Here you have the South trying to reclaim rights that that African Americans won in the Civil War, Emancipation Proclamation, African Americans getting elected to the Senate, and then all of these incredible leaders serve in these legislative bodies, and then one by one they leave. Yeah. Why haven't we heard this story?
I think personally, and I'm a little cynical as to why these stories don't get the more light to them, because you have on one side that this is a great story about, although we as a nation started off with some really bad things, whether it's slavery and racism and all these other things, but yet we move towards trying to make things right. And so that's a great story. The other part of it is there are some people that make more notoriety off of claiming eternal victimhood. And that flies in the face of it, because if you look at 5 years after slavery was abolished and African Americans were not allowed to read or write during slavery, these 5 gentlemen, or the one that we're talking about and 4 others, became senators in southern states that were formerly slave states. So it speaks to the resiliency. It speaks to the human condition as to, if I try hard and do the right thing, I can succeed against all odds. And I think not only is it a great story about the resiliency of African Americans, but it's an American story, that these people will be able to succeed because of the great promises of our forefathers, even in spite of the great obstacles that they faced.
And a beautiful faith story connected to all this. I mean,
He's a
these are
reverend.
people who believed God and trusted God. Take 30 seconds. You were in the curriculum world, and you're always looking, how do you balance curriculum? Is it time to balance as we feel a fuller story here? Or is that too woke, or is that too in the DEI vein to say we need to include these stories?
No, I don't think it's too woke. I think that when you have, I've worked a lot with classical schools, and they do cover stories like this that are not covered in public schools, and people who have made a difference in history. So in homeschooling, families can choose to cover these.
Hiram Revels.
Would be a good movie.
It would be a great movie, and you're going to make it. Well, coming up on Morning Light, Lebanon County Christian Ministries serves hundreds of vulnerable families, and the executive director is here to tell you about a fundraiser where you can give hope to your neighbors. And of course, yesterday marked the 3-year anniversary of the war in Ukraine. Morning Light was at the state capitol for an event marking those tragic events.
So today we gather in solidarity, Ukrainians by birth, Ukrainians by choice, and friends from around the world.
I'm a Christian myself, and we pray a lot for the Ukraine also together. It's very hard to pray right now because it hurts so much. It's like, okay, God, we believe in you. We know that you will take care of this. But in our hearts, it's like, let it just be peace among the people. Why do we have to live in fear? Because we're not only living in fear in the Ukraine, it's all around it. Every person should be living in freedom and peace and with God's love. It will happen. God is the only one who can take care of us. So I'm praying every night, God will be there for us. We just have to be patient.
Serving as the hands and feet of Christ, that's the mission of Lebanon County Christian Ministries. It started in 1982. Since then, the nonprofit is showing compassion to the community in tangible ways. Joining me is Executive Director Bryan Smith. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for being here back in December and now being here with us again. Remind us, what is LCCM?
Yeah, so Lebanon County Christian Ministries shares the love of Jesus through food, shelter, and connections that promote well-being and a healthy community, which really means we have a couple pillars of the work that we do. It starts with food. That's the foundation we were built upon. Includes our free new meal, our market on 7th. Then we have our shelter, which is our homeless shelter. And then the remaining portion of our commitment to our community is to address social determinants of health, such as utility assistance and walking alongside individuals trying to remove barriers to their long-term success.
I know we had talked about that as far as how you do walk alongside of someone, not for just a few months. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, we were here in December and had one of our Uplift guests with us. The program continues to be really vibrant. We're excited about the outcomes that we're seeing with the Uplift program, but it's not for the faint of heart. It starts off as like a 3-month commitment that rolls into a 9-month commitment. Our life coaches walk with our guests every 2 weeks, meeting, doing financial counseling, being able to provide food resources, using funds to remove barriers to success. And really one of the most impressive data elements we have is that the individuals who completed their 9-month assessment identified with an 81% increase in their self-sufficiency from a financial perspective, which is just absolutely huge.
Yeah, that is huge. And how do you weave the gospel into what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the beauty is that we just live it. One of the things that we're committed to is that if we can represent and be the hands and feet of Jesus, if people can see that light through us as a team, that will be a natural progression. So the individuals that are coming in, we serve everybody. There's zero statement of faith or any screening as far as that goes. But what we have identified is that deep into those meaningful connections and communications, the individuals begin to ask us, why do you actually care? And why do you love me like you do? And that's the open door for us to be able to say, well, because we do love you and we're committed to loving just like Jesus loved us. And they eventually start asking questions, which opens up an opportunity for us to share the gospel.
Yeah. Now, another way you're going to be sharing the gospel is with your Lenten Breakfast.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have 4 major fundraisers throughout the year. And during the Lenten season, we host this Lenten Breakfast. It's an opportunity for individuals to come together and enjoy breakfast, hear a message. It's probably our most church-like event that we have as far as the music and then the message. But it is a fundraiser for us. We'll do a free will offering, and it's a big part of us being able to provide services to our community.
That's what I was going to say. You are a nonprofit. Why are events like this so important?
Yeah, so every year we sit down this time of year to work on budget. We trust in Jesus to provide. We've kind of shared that in the last 5 years of my time at LCCM, we've tried to outspend God, and He's continued to support us as a ministry. But as a tangible example, last year we spent $188,000 more than what we received from the State Food Purchase Program for the purchase of food for the charitable food system. So, we're serving 1,000 households every 2 weeks. Every one of those households is getting a half a gallon of milk, and the costs to provide fresh, high-quality food is expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. Give us some of the details, how people can get involved if they would like to come to this breakfast.
Yeah, so it's available on our website at lccm.us under our events tab. You can purchase tickets online. You can send a check into the office denoting that it's for the Lenten Breakfast, and we'll reach out. And by March 10th is kind of the deadline. We got to make sure that our caterer is prepared to provide food. But just jump online or give us a call at the office, and we'll be able to connect you.
And for people who do not live in this area but are watching and say, hey, I want to help, you do have needs.
We do. We have volunteer needs. One of the things that I'm committed to as a nonprofit leader in this space is that there are an awful lot of places that people can donate. I would love for everybody to say that they're deeply connected with our ministry and they want to commit to donating with us. But regardless of where you live, there's an LCCM-like organization inside of your community. I am a big one on pray on it. Make sure that you're giving out of a grateful heart and not giving out of obligation. And so find somewhere to connect with. We call it Give, Go, Pray, and that's give of your financial treasures, go out and volunteer. Those both cost you either money or time, but the prayer part is simple. It costs you nothing. So just pray for organizations like ours across the communities.
Oh, we certainly are. And I want you to stick around because we're going to talk more about the breakfast coming up in our next segment. So up next, praise and pancakes. We will hear from this year's featured speaker at Lebanon County Christian Ministries, Lenten Breakfast. We're back in 1 minute. Welcome back. In our last segment, we told you about the mission of Lebanon County Christian Ministries. You also heard about the Lenten Breakfast, which serves as a fundraiser. Joining me once again is Executive Director Bryan Smith, along with this year's featured speaker, Patty Donley. Thank you for being with us, Patty.
Thank you for having us.
Why don't you talk to us about your faith journey?
Oh, I'm happy to, particularly because Lebanon County Christian Ministries has had a big part in where I am today. You know, I was raised in this big family. I was the youngest of 8 children, and our parents have always taught us the importance of Christian values. We were part of a church community, and as I entered my adulthood, same thing. I've always been part of a church community, raised my kids in the church. And then probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I really struggled a bit, and I was at a point where I wasn't attending church, and then I attended the Lenten Breakfast. And what is amazing is I heard a message there that I say has changed me, has changed my life. The next week, I started attending the church where that pastor is, happens to be Bryan's church. And I do truly feel like I'm a different person today. And what a full circle moment for me. That 3 years ago, I was attending this breakfast, and then this year, I'm providing the message. So it's humbling, certainly a privilege, but probably a testament to what happens when you submit to the plan that God has for you.
Talk to us about your message.
Absolutely. So as I say that I'm a different person, I think what's different is my thoughts, my reactions. I think my perspective has completely changed. And so what I'm going to talk about is perspective. You know, you and I can experience the exact same thing at the same time, but can leave with a completely different impression of what happened. And so I'm going to explore a little bit about what shapes perspective and whether or not it's shaped by the temporary worldly things happening around you, or if it's tied more into our eternity and a relationship with God.
And Bryan, why is it so important to have Patty speak?
Well, I think she articulated it very well, right? That full circle moment for her is really powerful. We have no idea who's walking in the door that day. We have no idea where somebody is in their faith journey. We have no idea where they are in life at that moment. And it could be a message that they need to hear. And we are excited that we could potentially be part of that. So that's just a really powerful moment. And then obviously the event is important for us to be able to reach the thousands of people that we reach annually through the ministry and the work that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when people are walking out of the door, Patty, what do you want them to take with them?
I think at least 2 things. One is it's never too late. You know, and I hope I am a testament to that. It's never too late to change, to take the steps toward living the life that you're destined to live. But I think also, I hope people are challenged to reflect on their thoughts, to reflect on their perspective, and decide what's driving my reactions to the things that are happening around me, and how can I maybe influence that in a positive way.
Certainly. Well, when you were there, it had a big impact on you. So I'm sure you're going to have a big impact on the people that will be there. Now, Bryan, this is just one of your fundraisers, and this is really important. Talk to us about what other fundraisers you have coming up this year.
Yeah, so this kicks off the calendar of fundraising. So we'll have the Lenten Breakfast here on March 22nd. In May, we'll have our golf tournament. which we'll pray for no rain. The May season is always a little tricky. And then getting into July and August, we'll be ramping up our Bridges to Hope, which culminates with our 5 Loaves 5K. That's a race that we'll have the weekend before Labor Day. And through that period of time will be a lot of food drives / fundraising as far as dollars and cents go. And then we celebrate the end of the year with our benefit dinner, which is always held the Thursday before Thanksgiving. So those are our 4 major events we do throughout the year.
And once again, you do have needs, and talk about the importance of these needs and how they're really making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, there's 130 individuals that eat our free meal every day. Our data suggests that 30% of those individuals, it's the only meal they get for the day. 1,000 households going through our market. It's over 4,000 individuals being served in a monthly basis. Our Uplift program of walking alongside individuals and providing a long-term future. What we're really committed to is that there is the right now, but what is the future look for our community? And we can play a significant role in that by really living out our vision statement, which is investing in people and improving lives.
Being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. Absolutely. Thank you both for being with us, and hope you have a wonderful Lenten breakfast.
Thank you.
And if you would like more information about Lebanon County Christian Ministries Lenten Breakfast, or if you would like to make a donation, check out lccm.us. Stay with us. We're back right after the break. Welcome back. Coming up tomorrow on Morning Light, mammals, birds, and reptiles from every corner of the world. We will take you on a road trip to the Ararat Ridge Zoo in Williamstown, Kentucky. Plus, we know it is important to take a Sabbath rest. So what does the Bible say about taking a vacation? Our Morning Light Christian counselor weighs in. And that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Well, Roberta Cleopatra Flack was born in Black Mountain, North Carolina, to a church organist. She once told Ebony magazine, "When people ask me about the place where I was born, I like to say 2 preachers came from Black Mountain, Billy Graham and I. He's preaching his way, I'm preaching my way." But like Aretha and Nina Simone and Whitney, Roberta Flack would leave the church choir for the world's biggest stages, leading the complex and complicated life of a star. No straight lines, but there was a sense, no matter how many detours, she always came back to where it began at age 3 or 4, to the old upright piano her dad bought her from the junkyard and painted green, picking out melodies like "Precious Lord, Take My Hand." This week, Roberta Flack came face to face with her maker, the one she'd been singing about for over 85 years, a voice stilled on earth by God's grace, may at this moment be singing in perfect pitch in that heavenly choir. For Deborah and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Coleman. Thanks for spending this day with us. Be sure to check on your neighbors. We'll see you again tomorrow morning.